I'm Brian.
And I'm Reggie.
And this is R&B Talks.
R&B Talks. What's up, Brian?
You know, it is what it is. But that's the best way I can put it, man. It's too cold. I'm tired of looking out my window and seeing a sea of snow.
Well,
but I know that if it all was to melt, then I would just see a sea of dead grass. Like, so maybe the snow's better, right?
it is.
To all you guys out there that have endured the snowstorms of the last 2 weeks, kudos for surviving.
There you go. Now, speaking of looking out your window and seeing things, there's been a billboard up in Louisville for quite a while.
Uh-huh.
It actually has been up there for quite a while.
Yes.
It's Charlie Kirk, billboard. It says, it's got his name. I forgot when he was born. 83? It was 1983 to 2025, something like that. And it's got a picture of him with his trademark, like blue jacket suit on with his red tie.
Yeah.
And then it says, "Prove me wrong."
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
A recent just news outlet in Louisville posted this billboard. That's all they did. It just said "spotted in Louisville this week," right? And we're going to read some of the awesome comments that deserve to be pointed out. Here's some.
Okay.
Here's a comment. Prove what wrong. I don't even want to say it. His lifespan, basically. If there is no intelligent graffiti on that sign by next week, I feel sad. Just know if any of you take on this challenge, I am definitely pledging to the defense.
Crazy person. Sorry.
Another one said, "Where do I go to debate him?" Let's see. Yeah, I can't. Gang violence, gurgle, gurgle is a hard one to refute. Here's another one. And now there was this, I will say this, there has been several people in here that said, like, say his name, stuff like that, obviously, and whatever. Here's one. Somebody proved him wrong. Two in the thoughts, one in the prayers.
That's my least favorite. You piece of hot garbage. You weak keyboard warrior piece of hot garbage. Sorry.
Aw, free target for the range.
Yeah.
And I'm just going through these, right? So this is the stuff. Here's one. Mega. Alex Preddy should have complied, right? And then it says below that, Charlie Kirk should have ducked.
Just trashy people, just trash human beings. Like on a level. And look, again, I had this kind of monumental discussion with my wife this week about where I stand politically, and I no longer identify as Republican or Democrat, because both parties are soft. But this is a guy like I have a question there. How about I show up at your husband's funeral when he dies and say some garbage like that? Would you be okay with that? Do you think that's the right thing to do? Think that's freedom of speech? How about if one of your kids dies? And here's the reason I say that. Charlie Kirk was a son. He was a husband. He was a father. And regardless of what you thought of him personally, for you to go on to any outlet and post, and I'm going to call this what it is, racist, conservative, phobic rhetoric, because you are the tolerant left.
Well,
right?
And two, it is truly phobic because they are afraid.
Yeah, and here's the thing, and that's something else I was going to bring up. For years we heard all the way through, the vid and everything else that happened. We heard about transphobic and homophobic, and those aren't real words, but But you people who post this stuff, you truly have a phobia of people who want to have a moral center. Like you're racist against morally centered people because they don't want to live in your delusion. And for that purpose alone, I think all of your rights to any social media and any speech should be taken away, not because I'm anti-free speech. You've just proven you're not adult enough to handle yourself. Like it just, if I went on there and posted a bunch of hateful stuff and they took away all my stuff, I can't be shocked that they took away all my stuff because I'm out there intentionally trying to inflict harm.
Yeah.
You don't deserve a pedestal to stand on. You don't deserve an open forum. You've proven that you're quite incapable of handling it. And that's the saddest part is all you had to really do was get on there and go, you know what? I disagree with him, but I disagree with the fact he was murdered. And people would think you were actually normal.
I know. Okay. There's one comment here that I think I just want to, even though I still think it's moronic, but I think it deserves a reply in some way that maybe they'll never see this, but here's what the comment said. The man primarily targeted college students because they are still naive. He never debated anyone knowledgeable about politics or history. Dean Withers challenged him repeatedly. Okay, now there's a few things wrong with this. For one, it's factually not true.
Utterly incorrect.
But the man primarily targeted college students because they are still naive. No, so why do you assume a college student is naive, for one?
They're voters, man. They're old enough to vote.
Well, the second thing is, if they are naive, then whose fault is that? Yeah. Who controls the educational institutions?
Yeah.
That's the left, who this person obviously is.
Yeah.
So there's two problems here. If they are naive, whose fault is it? And why are you not holding them accountable anymore? Because they're fully adults.
Why are you not trying to give them both sides so they can choose educatedly instead of only educating them on one side and then sending them out there to...
Yeah. Now, the other thing is, he never debated anyone knowledgeable about politics. Dean Withers challenged. Well, he constantly debated and talked to professors and the deans that were at these colleges. He constantly did that. And none of them were any smarter than the actual student body. I mean, it really wasn't a different conversation. They used sometimes a lot bigger words, but it didn't go anywhere, and it certainly didn't prove anything. So I guess I don't even see. This is the problem with the misinformation that gets thrown out here, especially with politically charged topics like this, is that you have a lot of just outright lies, and this is one that's perpetuated constantly right now. So that's the only intelligent thing I'm going to say about this whole entire thing. I did not get to flip through the entire thing because, for one, I was disgusted by only the few pages I've talked to you about, and those weren't all of them, by the way. That were just a select reading of some of the comments. And this is right here close to us. This is the biggest major city close by.
People wonder, why doesn't anybody? Why would I listen to anyone who vomits that crap up?
No,
you don't deserve to be listened to.
Well, okay. In Louisville, used to be interesting because it was like this keep Louisville weird thing.
Yeah,
right. That actually used to be cool.
I lived there for 15 years. The first 8-9 years I lived there, it was a great town, and then it just turned into a woke, cesspool of
trans
gay
crap
and of violence and unnecessarily rioting and all the other garbage that went along with it. And I just it's mainly the reason why I took my family and left, because I was like, this is not healthy for anybody.
It was a good move,
right? So
anyway, so this was one of the things that this is recently when this was posted, right? And this is close to us, so we figure it was an appropriate response to do here. Since we don't do this we're not social media comment warriors. We don't do that. We do it here.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So anyway, so that was, and partly the subject for today marries into this really well.
Does.
Brian wanted to talk about suicidal empathy.
I did.
And he's taken this, and I mean, I truly think Brian at this point Mad scientist genius at Suicidal Empathy. That's where we're at here, folks. I think Brian has conquered it, and he is going to bring the rain.
Well, here's the thing. Reggie.
Here we are.
Here's.
You can't use AI for shit though, but
I can't. No, like I've been bested multiple times this week by AI. I'm not gonna lie, but I have studied this very deeply and I've read a lot. And one of the main people we where this actually the term actually came from was author by the name of Gad Saad, and what suicidal empathy is what happens when a society elevates victimhood to a virtue and decides that punishment is cruel, and you get the disease that's called suicidal empathy. And here's why I call it a disease. It might not be a disease where it's a germ, but it is a definite social contagion. The core definition, suicidal empathy, is that has become maladaptive, unbounded, unreciprocated, and turned against the very people and systems that make empathy possible. It's when a normally healthy emotion misfires, prioritizing short-term emotional comfort over long-term survival, justice, and truth. Here's what it is, and I'm going to give it to you in layman's terms. You see it every day. The gentleman who was shot in Minnesota was a perfect example of suicidal empathy. You got so wrapped up in rhetoric that you armed yourself to the teeth and aggressively approached police officers. Now, is it a tragedy that he died? Absolutely. No one should die. But when you start to believe that this delusion that you're living in is such a reality, and you feel the pain, which is usually only mentally stimulated. There's no physical pain. It's an imagined pain that you are willing to go out, and it's not just death. You're willing to lose your job. You're willing to have your kids taken from you. You're willing to divorce your spouse. You're willing to disconnect from your family. Those are all forms of suicidal empathy. What I really like about it, Reggie, is the OCD analogy. Just as cleanliness is adaptive and becomes pathological, stuck in an infinite loop, empathy is adaptive but becomes destructive when it becomes hyperactive and directed in the wrong targets. The emotion itself isn't the problem. The misfiring is. Now, an example of that would be, the right way to look at this would be, let's say, and I say right way, kind of halfway being serious. I really feel for kids who are transgender. I really would like to see my congressman or someone get some help. I'm going to call in and write my congressman and go through the proper channels. That's proper empathy in my mind. Suicidal empathy is, I so feel bad for transgender kids that I'm going to brainwash my own child into being transgender and then convince them that chopping off whatever current sexual organs they have are the right thing to do. And then I'm going to hold my child up as a trophy of some kind of weird win that I got because I was so connected to this cause that I was willing to give up anything. That's suicidal empathy. What do you think, Reg?
I believe, I firmly would agree it's a social contagion for sure. I think that it's like that popular kid in school, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Like we've seen, this is why the left's takeover of institutions and Hollywood is so important, because that's what happens. Now you have the quote unquote famous cool people who are promoting this kind of stuff.
Yes.
And that's where you get this contagion from.
Well, and I think that as well is part of where the cult aspect comes from. And here's why I say that. And I'm not saying that everybody's starting a suicidal empathy cult, but there's a very cult-like angle to it when you have celebrities who are out here calling for revolt and then sending these people out into the streets and encouraging them to destroy their lives and destroy their ability to live and go to prison and die and cut off their family from their very comfortable mansions. To me, that's the cult leaders. The Hollywood elite, the political elite are the cult leaders. the Jasmine Crockett's, the Mark Ruffalo's, these people that go out here and they say these crazy things, but yet neither one of them are on the front lines. But they have no problem sending people that are malleable and sometimes suffer from mental illness and sometimes suffer from loneliness, because in my opinion, loneliness can be a mental illness if allowed to develop to that point. And then they get sent out into the streets to have their lives taken, to have their families taken, to have their jobs taken from them. A great example of this was the nurse in Florida that was encouraging other nurses to basically inject MAGA with chemicals and let them bleed out in the hospital. That's suicidal empathy. You just ruined your entire career. You went to school, you did all the schooling, you probably still have tons of student debt, and you went out there and shot yourself in the head, literally financially, career-wise, just so you could be a click on Facebook.
Okay, but here you say, okay, how can I put this? It's really the reason why we're even talking about this, because crazy people are going to do what crazy people do. But when you have paid protesters,
yes,
that are really inciting more aggressive things and violence and everything else, these are paid.
These are people that are making a career out of drumming up trouble.
So what anybody who's got half a brain should look at that and go, oh, maybe there is a problem here. Yes, there's a freaking problem.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is part of it. Like we have what I want to encourage everyone who listens to this is like, this is not a good thing. Okay. Very, very bad. You must understand this. To go to the links that people are going to and getting in the way of law enforcement is not a good thing. This is not revelatory, like resurgence or kind of material that you should be, in an insurrection type of thing. This is not what this stuff is. I mean, right now, the biggest thing that everybody's upset about is ICE when they're just, look, I have never seen an ICE raid in person. I have never actually even seen anybody who gets arrested for being an illegal. I've never seen any of that, right? In person, right?
Yeah.
It's generally not anywhere around where I'm at. I mean, that's just not, it's not a thing here really for what we go, right? So just keep that in mind. Like have you? I'll bet that here's my thing is I bet that like 80% of freaking, well, I even go 90% of people probably have never seen this, and they're going by all this rhetoric and crap that they're seeing on the news and the AI videos, which there are some who are completely made up.
Yeah. Well, here's what I would say. Let's make this even simpler.
Hey, Brian, what would you say, buddy?
If you don't have nothing to be worried about, you shouldn't be worried about ICE showing up. If you got something to be concerned about and ICE shows up, you're probably doing something stupid.
Well, keep in mind.
Let's do the math. Where is ICE at right now? They're in Portland. They're in Seattle. They're in Minnesota. They're in sanctuary cities.
No,
they're not doing this in non-sanctuary cities. So step back for a second, folks, and think about this. Another great example is the suicidal empathy of the mayor of Minnesota, who went on to national television and complained that it's ruining Minnesota's economy because they're shutting down the illegal, corrupt, and fraudulent businesses of illegal immigrants. That's your complaint, right? You're not complaining that they're stealing money from your actual voting base and that the people of Minnesota who are citizens are getting taken advantage of. You're complaining that the people who are committing the fraud are being treated unfairly. So again, suicidal empathy in its finest, fly the flag, baby. Its finest form, right?
Well, okay. So here's how I look at this. What does illegal mean, Brian?
It means you broke the law.
What?
You broke the law.
Say that again?
You broke the law. Let me say it like this. You broke the law. Like,
here, let me say.
Well, and here's the other thing.
I want to beat my head against the wall, bro.
Let's explain it on
I'll
make it simple again. Can you name another country anywhere, including Mexico, that doesn't have immigration laws?
No. Matter of fact, let's go deeper in this.
Okay.
You buy a piece of property.
Yes.
You put a fence up. Why?
To create borders for your property and a private place for your family to live.
No.
Really?
Why?
Because
you have immigration in your own home.
More suicidal empathy. Are you ready? There is a group of haggard, and I'm going to call them what I think they are, haggard, old, nosy Karens in Minnesota who wanted their neighborhood protected. So what did they build? They built walls that blocked people from entering their neighborhood.
And then what did they check at the door?
Yeah, there's another word for what those walls are, Reggie. What's that word?
Order.
Oh, okay. So they're allowed to build a border and decide who comes in and out of their neighborhood.
And check ID.
And check ID
at the gate,
too. Yeah,
by the way.
They're demanding identification. But we can't have a border that keeps illegal immigrants out.
Okay, but people I get that. I see this all the time. It's different for your own home versus the country.
No, it isn't. Actually, you know what? You're right. It is. I have police that I pay taxes for to protect me while I'm in my home. I also pay federal taxes for federal police to protect my borders. So you're right. It is different, but it's exactly the same thing.
Exactly the same. But Brian, you bought your home on stolen land.
Oh, God. Like, I can't even. First of all right, so I got to get this out. All right, so I'm going to say this. I didn't watch much of the Grammys. I actually went back and watched some highlights. I do want to give a shout out to Post Malone and Slash and Duff McKagan and Chad Smith for doing probably the best Ozzy tribute I've ever heard. They did War Pigs. Post Malone was amazing. But that was, and I give a shout out to Jelly Roll. I know you probably still don't understand what Christ is. You're still doing some things you shouldn't be doing, but at least you went out on television and gave it the old heave-ho, bro. And I love you for it. I'm a Jelly Roll fan, and that brother keeps getting closer. And God bless him for going out there and talking about the Lord. I love you, Jelly. I know I would love to talk to you one day. I feel like you're one of those interesting people that I'd love to get to know. But Billie Eilish. Shut up. Just shut up. Come on. You're going to walk out onto a stage and you're going to make a comment about stolen land when you have a $40 million mansion in the middle of what used to be Mexico. I'm sorry. Am I supposed to take you seriously? Are you anything but a joke? Like, not only is your music terrible, but your political capabilities for understanding and comprehending realities are completely destroyed. Like, you have no.
Well, it's such a stupid thing to say. It is really stupid. You got to understand this. This is ridiculously stupid because all of human history is conquest. That's how we as people have done things throughout the course of human history. Even today is by conquest.
Yeah.
Like, period, dot. Who do you think the Native Americans got the land from before you? The other tribes or the other people or whatever. And they got it from another people and they got it from another people and they got it. I mean, come on. This goes back as far as human history.
If you're upset about the fact that we own land that used to be Mexico's, you shouldn't really be mad at us. You should be mad at the Mexicans that sold it to us for pennies on the dollar. They're the ones that. All right, so here's the question. All right, Reggie, say your neighbor comes up to you and says, you know what, I'm in financial peril. And I know I own this 5 acres over here and it's got this beautiful home on it. I'll sell it to you for $28. If you were back in the olden days and you could buy all that for $28, you wouldn't care why they were selling it to you. You would just buy their $28 worth of land. So if you're going to be upset about why we own part of what Mexico used to be, talk to the people who sold it to us.
Not only that, though, But I'm just saying, seriously, anthropologically.
Yeah.
Okay.
We are a conquering species.
But not just that, though. But like there was actually white, like, I don't know how they there's a name for them. But before the Native Americans, there were other people here.
Yeah. Yeah. They were not the first.
And they got ran over. And the mounds around here actually are changes completely the history of what people think, because it has evidence of like this whole other civilization. I mean, anyway.
Absolutely.
Okay, but we're getting on a tangent.
Anyway.
But the reason why we're talking about all this stuff though is because this is indicative of what suicidal empathy does.
Yeah. It's a poison. It's poisoning the water is what it is.
The truth and the actual logic and truth get pushed aside for some rhetoric and propaganda that is not based on anything but like is this bloated emotional catastrophe, So anyway, what about some things, Brian, with like the how could we approach suicidal empathy from a Christian perspective? Let me ask you that.
It's funny that you say that. Joe Rigney, The Sin of Empathy and Compassion and Its Counterfeits. Rigney is he's a fellow of theology at St. Andrew's College. His book provides explicitly Christian framework. The key distinction for sympathy versus empathy with him was, if you step into one person's pain while keeping one foot firmly planted on the shore, in the shore being God's word, you maintain an anchor outside the pit, right? Like, think back to all of the biggest, people like, and I don't really like to use examples, but think about people like Gandhi, Mother Teresa. They were very empathetic people, but they always kept themselves grounded in the fact that we have to have some level of reality to help people, right? We can't just be living in a fantasy world and throwing things after things and hoping that this all works. One of the men that I really, Vadi Bakum was a great example. He was a very empathetic man with a very grounded approach to wanting other people to understand who Christ was, right? If you jump into the quicksand with both feet, you lose your anchor, and then you and the person that you jump in for both wind up sinking. So think about it like this. If you're on a boat and someone's drowning, do you throw them a life preserver and hold on to the rope? Or do you jump into the choppy waters too and not think about what you're going to be capable of and drown with them, right? Like, you don't like it. An easy example would be, I'm hungry, so I feed a man and then I share some of the gospel with him. That would be an easy example. I'm grounded in the word. I know there's a need. I meet the need where I can, and then I use that grounding, that foot in the word, to share some of the truth with him, right? Like, you want to talk with that person. I don't go become homeless with him. That's not empathy. And here's the thing too. The reason why I say suicidal empathy doesn't have a dictionary definition is it's not a real thing. It's a mental illness.
It's more of a condition.
Well, I think honestly, man, after watching and I did, before I studied this, I went into TikTok and Instagram and I looked at as much stuff as I could, because I wanted to get like a full force blast of what this was. It's not a condition. It is a full-on mental illness.
Yeah.
You are caught in a loop of psychosis that is utterly devastating, and you're unable to bring yourself out of it. And
well, so getting back to what you're saying about Gandhi and Mother Teresa, okay, both of those people were grounded in principles.
Yes,
but they didn't violate those principles
in order to.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
To be sympathetic or compassionate towards other people or causes, right? Yeah. They grounded themselves in those principles, period, right? Yeah. And that's what you see with like with the story of Christ and everything else. Like he experienced everything that we could possibly get tempted by or whatever.
Yeah.
Yet he didn't sin.
No.
So that's the thing. He's completely compassionate.
Yeah. I like Rigney's point. Compassion reserves the right not to blaspheme.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, you still maintain truth and logic and your principles in whatever you're trying to be empathetic or sympathetic of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the Job example, Job's wife, having lost all 10 children, says, curse God and die. Should Job, out of empathy for her pain, join her in blasphemy? No, he should not. That would be a suicidal empathy, sacrificing truth on the altar of someone's feelings. And I think that's really a part of it is, I think part of the illness in all this is we are no longer able to discern what we feel from what our action should be. Right. And speaking with depth about something and depth of feeling and wanting to help someone is fine. But there's so many better ways to do that, so many stronger ways to do that. And here's the thing that I don't understand is something along with the suicidal empathy it eventually causes a shortage in help. Because if all of us are going down with the ship, who's going to help the ones that survive? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know.
Like if we're all running into the tsunami because we think we shouldn't be prejudiced against the tsunami and we all drown, well, if there's survivors, who's going to be around to help those people? No one.
Yeah.
You're creating a vacuum of empathy is what you're actually doing when you're behaving in this way. You're creating a vacuum of ability to help people because, I use this guy again, Alex Preddy. You were a nurse. You created a gap and an absence of people who would need help by sacrificing yourself to your suicidally empathetic belief. You now have hurt more people than you've helped.
Well, okay. At the end of the day, like I guess here's what we're saying too. It doesn't really matter whether that was justified or not in as far as a criminal action against whatever ICE or whatever. That's not what we're actually saying. We're saying the fact that he was so adamantly and violently revolting against law enforcement, he was actually putting himself in danger in this mental state of chaos.
Well, and we now know that on more than one occasion,
that's what I'm saying.
Attacking police.
I mean, he was doing this. This is what you're putting yourself in. You're putting yourself in position of extreme danger.
Yeah.
And the ruling has been from Supreme Court that if you use a vehicle towards an officer, it is a deadly weapon.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the law, folks. So I think we got to say this, all right? I think because I think there was another avenue of this empathy stuff that popped up when I was looking at some things. Like untethered empathy, cowardly empathy, and manipulative empathy. So the one that I thought, though, I see more than anything is this cowardly empathy thing, where it's like, oh, we don't want to be mean or hateful, or we don't want to be even disliked. So therefore, we're just going to coddle that.
Now, Reggie, being men of faith as we are,
indeed,
where do we see cowardly empathy more than anywhere else?
In the church.
Absolutely. Well, we don't want to upset. We know that Brenda's cheating on her husband and, I know. Frank's a philanderer, but Frank gives money to the church. So we don't want to hurt Frank's feelings. We don't want to confront Linda. We're just going to kind of be like, well, that's terrible. Okay, thanks. That's the place, it takes me back to when Christ went into the temple and saw what was going on and started flipping tables. Now, I'm not saying you want to start punching people and flipping tables and getting angry, but there needs to be some confrontational love that happens within the church when we see people who are violating the tenets of what's going on. You need to be willing to stand up and go, this is wrong.
Well, this goes back to that one example we talked about with, man, what was it? Where you had like if something is definitively true and then highly, how do we put that?
Oh, I remember what you're talking about.
You know what I'm saying? It was essential or non-essential. It was whatever.
Essential truth.
Yeah, we really have if somebody's violating like the actual like what is true and what is right, and and it's an essential doctrine. The cowardly thing is to let that go, because that is an essential part of what that either that organization or the belief system or perspective, whatever it is, that is core.
Yeah.
So those things, if they're violated and you just let it go, that is cowardless. That is a cowardly, empathetic thing to do.
Yeah. Well, and let's remember, the one thing I don't want people to think is this is just some kind of, organic. There's a framework that goes along with this. There's a framework, and Gad Saad talked about the secular framework.
Okay. What do you say, buddy?
He identifies idea pathogens, parasitic ideas that infect thinking. Postmodernism. We both know how you and I both know how we feel about postmodernism. Social constructivism, blank slate theory. If we could just wipe it all and start all over again, which is not going to happen. Radical feminism.
It cracks me up, by the way.
Which
it only exists because the men allow it, by the way.
Well, here's the thing about radical feminism, and I'm going to say it. Radical feminism will eventually destroy women. It's just the way it is.
Well, actually, all the women will be men.
Yeah, all the women will be dudes. There won't be any women left. Cultural relativism. Oh man, no thanks. And last but not least, which is what you see going on right now, I think is the heart of all this, is identity politics. What's so funny to me, and I still find it hilarious, is when you see an actual journalist go on the streets and ask a leftist, what are you out here marching against? And their answer is Trump. It's not a policy. It's not a law that's been broken. It's not a victim. It's not a violent action or a war. It's a guy that it's like the No Kings March. If Trump was a king, the government would never have shut down. You guys are so stupid that sometimes I don't know how you get out of bed every day and put your pants on. Like, I don't know.
Because it's an empathetic response to the media propaganda.
And now here's something else that I want to talk about, and this is a huge piece of suicidal empathy, and it's the neglecting of actual victims to create victims. Now, what I mean by that is, let's go back to Trump's first State of the Union address, when he recognized a young boy with brain cancer who wanted to be in law enforcement, when he recognized at the time, which it's now multiplied by probably 24, the 2 women that were murdered by illegal migrants.
Oh, yeah.
The Democrats were so wrapped up in their suicidal ideology that when those 3 people were recognized, they chose to stay silent and cold shoulder those victims, because they needed their victimization to be more important than the actual victims themselves. When you victimize yourself, like as these crazy people do, and I call them crazy because I can't really explain any other way that this behavior would be, calculated. When you believe in your own mind that you're such a victim that other people who are actually victims, people who are murdered and raped and beaten, aren't victims because they just don't fit in your narrative. A lot of children, a lot of young women. And you notice this when you hear the narrative, they'll say, well, Trump this and Trump that. And then they'll go, well, and then of course the rational person goes, well, what about the 120,000 women that were sex trafficked last year? What about the hundreds of thousands of kids that are sex trafficked? Are those not victims? And what they say is that has nothing to do with it actually has everything to do with what's going on right now. And let's be clear, if we wouldn't have allowed 10 million criminals essentially into our country, we wouldn't have these issues going on right now. The reason that migrant crime is high, the reason that migrant felonies are being committed on a mass level is because we let a mass quantity, 10 million that we know of, they actually think that number might be double, into the country, and they were all criminals. They were criminals by the very fact that they came across the border illegally. You were a criminal instantly.
Well, I know, but here's ICE released this. Okay? Yeah. They released a list in Minneapolis when all this was going down.
Yeah.
A list of the actual people they'd arrested.
Yeah.
Right? And it was staggering. It was like sexual assaults, child trafficking,
murder,
rape, murder, assault with a deadly weapon. I mean, there's like,
but the left does this. They put on the blinders, right?
Well, I know, but
I don't
like,
see that.
This is where the suicide, like you are completely throwing out and neglecting everything of the real issues here and the real victims for the sake of your ideology.
Yeah.
Now, this is straight out of the Marxist communist playbook, by the way.
It is, absolutely.
Victimhood is a critical piece of how that works.
And they don't define victimhood traditionally. It's you must make yourself a victim in order to make our cause stronger. That's the Marxist way of doing things. The communist way of doing things is that we're going to make ourselves victims, even though we're not victims. I mean, and I hate to say this, but I've harped on this, but you know, the people out there screaming victim, the AOCs, the Ilhan Omars, the Bernie Sanders, you guys are multiple millionaires. How are you a victim? How are you a victim? The lies that they've told. AOC's lie about, I thought I was going to get murdered during the Capitol riots. You weren't even in the same place they were. So how did you fear for your life? Or are you just delusional? Do you have suicidal empathy, which is what I would boil it down to?
So here it is. Empathy without truth or wisdom becomes destructive.
It does, yes.
Okay, that's really where we're getting to that. This is for me anyway. My big point here is that truth and wisdom must always be paramount to having anything be resolved successfully and without this suicidal aspect of being empathetic, right?
Yeah.
So the Bible has some really clear depictions of this. I think it's critical, right? And the one book, let's go to the book of wisdom, Proverbs himself, right?
Yes.
Proverbs 19:2, desire without knowledge is not good, and whoever makes haste with his feet misses his way.
Proverbs 17:15, he who justifies the wicked and he who condemns the righteous are both like an abomination to the Lord, inverting justice out of misplaced compassion.
Oh, really? Proverbs 25:26, a righteous man who falters before the wicked is like a murky spring and a polluted well.
Yes.
So anyway, look, the point being, you know, believing it or not, but you know, actually the Bible corroborates with what we're saying here. So this is the thing. Okay. Real justice is something that should be held up, right? Real, not social justice, not the fake justice, phony justice where we get thrown in our faces constantly, but like every action that, and from our worldview, our perspective, the way God works is always compassion and justice. They're not exclusive.
Well, you'll see either compassion or justice, compassion or discipline. You know, because they should go hand in hand, right? They should be connected with each other.
Yeah.
Right. This wild empathetic thing that is going on right now. Honestly, just look at them while they're doing what they're doing. I mean, there comes a point when you defend the weak, but you draw back to become that place where the weak can come and seek solace. That's not happening. I don't even think they're compassionate to the weak. They're there because they feel that there's a hole in their life that they can't fill. So they think, well, this will make me a whole person. This will make me, well, if I can just stop one ICE agent from arresting an immigrant, my life will be complete. No, you'll go to jail. And then your life is ruined. And then you have a criminal record for the rest of your days. And you're going to probably get fined, if not spend a considerable amount of time in jail for assaulting a cop or helping someone evade arrest. And there's no think through, right? There's no, an example would be the lady who they shot in the car. A rational person would have stopped the car, got out, and if they truly felt like they weren't doing anything wrong, they would have just said, you know what? We're just here. We're just making sure everybody's okay. Feel free to check the car. But they didn't do that. Her thought was to run. Well, guess what criminals do when they're about to get caught? They run. So she knew she wasn't right. And regardless of how deep the psychosis was, there was a part of her that knew she wasn't right. Because if you truly believed you were right, you wouldn't have tried to get away. You would have stood your ground.
Well, and moving on to a much more probably contextual example for what we've been talking about with suicidal empathy and actually immigration.
Yeah,
you got to look to the UK.
Yes.
Okay. We have to look at the UK's influx of all the Islam and Muslim stuff that's been going on there, and the dramatic increase in religious oriented violent acts and stuff like that. You got to look at that stuff. Well, man.
You got to look at that. You have to look at the continuing rise in arresting people for freedom of speech. I believe I listened to a podcast where there was a young man from England that says that 3,000 people a year are being locked in jail because of stuff they post on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. Like you're literally, if you're looking for a Gestapo, there you go.
But it's just okay. Look, at the end of the day, we're going to wrap up here, but like the idea is basically this: you really have to be grounded in some type of principles and stick with those principles. If you violate those principles while trying to be empathetic, you are being completely destructive.
Yeah,
and actually causing more harm than you are good.
A great way to say it is, if a person needs bread, you go buy them bread, you give it to them, and you help them learn how to get bread on their own. You don't burn down the bread store.
That's a bakery, by the way.
Bread store.
They go to that bread store.
It's possible that it's a bread store, right? They might not bake their bread. They might bring their bread in. It might be a bread store.
Go to bread buy. Get you some bread.
But like you don't burn down the bakery. You go buy them some bread, and then you teach them or help them learn how to get their own bread. You don't go, oh, I'm sorry, you want some bread? Well, let me burn down the bread store because they're bad because they won't give it to you.
I'm going to bring this back to a really, it's just what I think is really just an idiotic thing. We know that trans identifying people have a much higher rate of hurting themselves
and others
than other people who don't. Okay, let's just say it like that, just for the sake of the YouTube algorithm. And we know that, right? And the part here is that why would we push more and like actually be intentional into trying to create more of that when we know there's a higher probability that that's a problem? You know what I mean? Now I'm not even talking about all the other ridiculous stuff with it, but I'm saying just on those real statistics alone, that should tell you something, that's probably not the best thing to do. That's like, that's not the first path, and definitely what you should do with your kids,
Yeah. You definitely shouldn't encourage your children to imbue themselves with irrational things. Teach your kids to be empathetic, but also teach them to understand that there has to be some level of rational thought that goes along with empathy. You don't, oh, I'm thirsty, I need water. You don't put poison in the water treatment plant. You just go get them a glass of water and then try to help them, right? Like it's this whole, but one of the things I'll say about all this is this. I don't think this is going to go away anytime soon. I think this is actually probably going to get worse. There's been some things that have cropped up lately that have just been incredibly disheartening, of people who are, posting online that they're going to do certain things. I've seen several videos of, encouragement to commit violent acts, to burn down buildings, to attack people, to load weapons and start firing on people. And you're not going to fix anything. You're taking a storm and you're turning it into a hurricane, and eventually it will envelop everything. And you guys have got to realize that, your suicidal empathy is destroying others. It's destroying businesses. It's destroying people who are trying to take care of their families. One of the most telling conversations I had the other day, Reggie, is I was talking to somebody, and I asked them, I said, how do you feel about everything that's going on? And she goes, you know what I feel? It's like, what's that? And she goes, that I can't talk about it for fear that my children, my husband, my family will be hurt because I might say something that someone doesn't agree with. That is not a state of existence that any single person should live in.
No. So I think I'm gonna bring this right back to Christ. Christ, and I love this, that he was the most sympathetic, but he wasn't a sycophant.
No, not at all.
So he wept, okay, but he confronted.
Yeah,
he didn't back away. He never said to someone, "Oh, your truth is valid, even though you're sinning." He never said that, right? He said, "Go and sin no more."
That's right.
So the result, what Christ did was he said, real love doesn't affirm destruction.
Yeah, it does not.
Sin is destruction.
Yes.
Okay. Now that's the Christian thing for us, and for anybody else who's a Christ-centered person. You got to look at that and look at who he was and what he did. Period. Dot. We always have to keep in mind justice, and that it's actually a thing, and it's not wobbly or anything else like that.
And justice is not. There's no scale, right? Like that. I know people want to. Well, the justice because no. Murder is murder if there's intent.
But we can't continue to put criminals over victims. The illegal over legal. We can't feelings over facts. And like this short-term, comfortable, ooey gooey over the long-term consequences of a long-term flourishing or consequences, right? I mean, that is what's going on, and it's crazy. So I mean, it's being weaponized, man. I mean, that's the thing right now, and it's thrown in your face every single day on purpose. If you don't support this, you don't care about them. If you don't support this, you're evil or whatever, or corrupt, or you're just heartless kind of thing. And it's crazy. It's an emotional blackmail thing that's really dumb. So that's that. I mean, we could probably talk about this kind of stuff for
there's a lot
for a lot of things, but I guess for us, man, Christ is the way. He showed us what that was about. He didn't speak out and say, it's whatever your happiness is, that's cool. Whatever your truth is, that's cool. No, there was a definite no. Go and sin no more. He didn't just cry. He actually went and flipped over tables too. I mean, there's a lot that you can unpack from all that stuff. So we're R&B Talks.
Shout out to Brad Arnold, lead singer, Three Doors Down. A Christian, passed away yesterday. Shout out to his family. Pray for his family.
Interesting. I did not know.
I was a big Three Doors Down fan, but he proclaimed Christ. So shout out to his family. Prayers for his family. This is R&B Talks.
I'm Reggie.
I'm Brian.
See you later.
Guys, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.